Hello and welcome back to Focus Atlanta. Thank you for continuing to watch. We're going to close out the show with a fascinating book. It is The Organ Thieves. I'd like to introduce you to author Chip Jones. Well, Chip, thank you so much for coming on Focus Atlanta to talk a little bit about The Organ Thieves. I got to tell you, the concept of this book is just mind-blowing. Tell me a little bit, I mean, you spent so much time. Tell me a little bit about the history behind why you wanted to write this book, why you wanted to tell this story.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here, Keisha, on Focus Atlanta. It's really exciting. I have some good friends in Atlanta, and I know they're watching. It all started with the idea of writing about the first heart transplant actually in the world, and that was done by a South African physician named Christian Barnard, way before you were born. I was in high school at the time. And I found out that there was an incredible link to actually Richmond, Virginia, and the first heart transplant, as it says in The Organ Thieves, the shocking story of the first heart transplant in the segregated South, and that was in Richmond, Virginia in 1968. The two doctors who did that had trained Christian Barnard, and he went back to South Africa and won the race. They lost it. They were looking for a beating heart. They found one. A gentleman had had an accident, had been rushed to the emergency room of Medical College of Virginia on the night of May 24th, 1968. And he was conscious, he was talking, his vital signs were good. Within hours, he was used as a donor. I always put in air quotes because there was no donation at that time. And they not only took his heart, which they put in the chest of an alien white man who needed a heart, they took both of his kidneys too. And the tragedy that surrounded this is really what drove me, Keisha, to find out what happened, because that part of the story had never been told. It was just mostly told in the sense of this historic operation. And so I start the story, and I always say, you know, with one black life is Bruce Tucker, this man. What happened to him? What happened to his family? And then what happened to him when the family sued in a civil suit and was represented by a young attorney at the time, Douglas Wilder, who became the first black governor of Virginia. So there were just so many historical top threads there that I knew there was a book.
I mean, it is an incredible story. And I have to say, it really resonates right now because there is this distrust in the African-American community with the medical community. In the book, you know, you're telling exactly how it happened and how it went down and why maybe there is so much distrust in the African-American.
Exactly. Yes. And I've been talking to a lot of people who said that's a very good point, said the same thing. And the lack of trust in the system during COVID-19 with the mortality rate of Black Americans, and about that for Latinos over white Americans, the suspicion that the entire history of the medical establishment of the United States, as you know, I get into how this started in the late 1700s and early 1800s. It was all based on getting bodies into medical schools. How did they do it? Body snatching, grave robbers. And actually, early on, Governor Wilder, he kindly gave me an interview on the record. He talked about, he grew up in Richmond in the 30s, hearing about his grandmother would warn him, don't go down to the hospital at night. Those night doctors might snatch you. So those stories had a basis in reality. And I think The Organ Thieves will help readers understand how the history of American medicine still faces lots of questions about inequities and injustice. And I understand some, really good, I know a lot of good medical school professors are working on this now to address what they call the historical trauma that's faced by patients today, patients of color, and also physicians of color that I've known.
I'm so excited that this book is out. So is it already out, or do we have a little bit of time? Can people pre-order?
It's definitely ready for pre-orders on Amazon or Simon & Schuster is the publisher, or any of the online booksellers. I always recommend people use your independent bookseller because they're such good people and they're surviving through the crisis. But wherever a person wants to order, you can order it right now, and it will be released on August 18th.
Fantastic. Chip, thank you so much for telling this story for Bruce Tucker. People need to know his name. I'm sure that the family appreciates you telling this story. And again, if nothing else, maybe each reader will learn a little bit more about equity in the medical profession and have a little more empathy and approach things in a different way and learn a little bit more. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking with you.
And thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Focus Atlanta. I hope that you stay tuned every week here on Atlanta CW.